LG site, on the northernmost tip of that property, there's an undeveloped portion, and we would put an overlay that could potentially capture units there. To be very clear, everything I just went through on unmet need, there is no prospective developer, there's no plan, there's nobody knocking at the door. This is unmet need. We're putting overlay zones in place so that a developer could come in. We're giving them that option, if you will. The underlying zoning remains as it is. We're giving you a layer on top of that that allows it. Mr. Serenian summarized 800 Sylvan Avenue. I'll hit the highlights here. I have a concept plan that I'm going to show you in a minute. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. I'll circle back. 400 units. There's 94 for-sale townhouse units, 306 rental apartments, and of those 306, 80 would be affordable units and 226 would be market rate units. In order to accomplish that, we have to reconfigure and realign the existing parking and circulation and driveways on what's known as the existing research and development facility that is to remain on 8 acres at the southern portion of the property. I have a concept I'll show you in a minute. Before I get to that concept, this is an aerial photograph of the site. I don't know if you can see this back there, but on this plan, there's a number of labels. All they do is tell you what's going to happen in each one of the 3 quadrants. If you can see that red line is essentially the subdivision line. I have a better drawing in a minute, I'll get to it, but the purpose of this drawing is to show you that this is what's there today, and under this settlement proposal, it would be subdivided. There's the potential for it to be subdivided. There's no guarantee that it's going to be subdivided. It doesn't have to be under the settlement, but we're given the rights to that it could be subdivided into 3 parcels. The parcel all the way to the left, the existing R&D facility will remain, and then the other 2 parcels, the northern portion by the school would be redeveloped with the 94 townhouses, and the 3rd parcel closer to Sylvan Avenue would be redeveloped with the 306 apartments. I'll show you a concept in a minute. Over on the municipal site, Hudson Terrace site, the borough-owned piece of property, under the settlement arrangement, instead of the 57 units, we have a 15-unit project, 100% affordable housing project. 10 of them would be family rental units, and 1 is a group home with 5 bedrooms. This is the site right outside our borough hall, borough hall, known as the Lions Club, the tennis courts. Most people are familiar with this. And this is a concept plan that was prepared by one of the consultants looking at doing this project. The blue is a 5-bedroom group home. The brown area, the rectangle in the middle, is a community room. And then the sand color, if you will, is the affordable housing project. So there would be 10 units in the sand, and there's 1 group home, which would have 5 bedrooms. We get 15 credits on this project. This would, if you go all the way back to the beginning of my presentation when I had another sketch with the 57 units, this plan replaces that. The 57 units goes away, now you have 15. This is the architectural, again, none of this is etched in stone. I have to show you something, so please, these are concepts, very early concepts that have been prepared, so we have something to show you, but this is the artistic renderings of what the 15-unit project would look like. Unmet need. This map is designed to show all of the areas that I spoke of on one map. The green, the purple, the green is the B3 zone, the purple is the Hudson Terrace overlay. I spoke of 1000 Sylvan Avenue, that's where the existing LG facility is located today. Then we have the Sisters of the Peace overlay area, and then we have that new LG at 111 Sylvan Avenue, where the existing corporate campus is going up today. This would address all of our overlay areas. I'll take it one at a time. New LG headquarters, which is at 111 Sylvan Avenue. We're overlaying just a portion of the site, approximately 1.8 acres. On that 1.8 acres, we're looking at, we would provide an overlay zone that would allow 45 total units, which would include 9 affordable units, including the 9 with the 20% set aside. This is the existing site plan that has been approved by our borough that's currently under construction. Most people know, you can't miss this building, it's under construction right now. The green area, if you can see that area in the northern portion of the property, I've highlighted that. That's the portion of the property that I'm talking about. This plan, same plan, I'm just blowing it up a little bit. This is the northernmost portion of this corporate campus. Right south of that green area, there's isolated wetland areas, and then there's a proposed basketball court. All of that would stay intact. We would only focus the development on the northern tip. This is the concept plan of what those units would look like. It would be a 3-story building, 3 stories of residential units over 1 level of parking, and the wetlands would remain. Again, this is a concept that would allow for an overlay zone. There's no developer right now. There's no plans right now. There's nobody knocking on the door. I don't have anything else to show you. This is just an overlay zone that we would put in place. Then you have, I know it as, it's the existing LG site, not the old LG site, but where LG is currently located. The thought process with Fair Share Housing was they're about to vacate this building and relocate to this new corporate campus. What's going to happen to the former office building once they vacate? They may stay there and continue to lease it and so forth, and that's fine. But they've requested an overlay on top of the existing site right now so that you have the existing commercial use as a permitted use, and nothing changes on the existing zoning. But again, we're going to give them this overlay zone on top of it. If the site is 5.46 acres, we have, if it's built out through the residential, if this is an age-restricted project, it would either be 55 or 77 units, providing either 11 or 15 affordable units with the 20% set aside. And this is the concept plan that we developed to show how those units would lay out. The reason why there's that 55 or 77, it all goes to height, because one of the requirements that we're putting into this overlay zone, would be that the building cannot exceed the tree height, respecting the scenic view shed, so that we don't want the buildings to pierce that tree line. And you have to do, there's a lot of engineering and architectural work to answer that question, and basically we're putting that option out there. And if they could demonstrate that they can do it and not exceed the tree line, they can get the additional story. But that's not something that we're going to take this development that far. It's an idea. So, and this is an age-restricted project. Then there's the Sisters of Peace site, located at 399 Hudson Terrace. Again, an overlay zone. The site today is 12.679 acres. We have agreed to provide an overlay zone that would allow for 40 age-restricted units or 50 age-restricted units. Of those, 30 would be affordable units with 10 market rate units, all age-restricted, or there's an option there where they can do 40 affordable units and 10 market rate units. This is the site. This is an aerial. There's no concept. There's nothing more right now than this aerial. So I don't have anything more to tell you, but we did meet with the sisters. We have gone over it. It's something that they have considered to help maintain their campus. So again, We don't have any plans, I don't have any architecturals, I have nothing to show you. It's an overlay zone. We're trying to capture that unmet need area. And then I close with Hudson Terrace mixed-use overlay. It's located in 2 zones, the B2 and the B4. It's about 16.78 acres, 15 units per acre if it's just residential, 20 units an acre if it's mixed use. And then the same thing with the B3 zone. It's about 10 acres, 9.96. It's already been investigated as an area in need of rehabilitation back in 2017. And that was 15 units an acre, again, for residential, or 20 if it is a mixed-use project. And those are those 2 areas. The green is the B3 zone. The purple, magenta, is the Hudson Terrace. That 15-unit project I spoke of, that 100% affordable housing project, is within the purple area. That's our municipal complex in that yellow area that's highlighted there. You see the Sisters of Peace in blue, also shown as the overlay, and then the new LG, that 1.88 acres areas. So those are our projects. The only one that's not shown on this slide because it's too far away is the existing LG. I will close with just a quick, who can live in affordable housing? There are income limits, moderate, between 80 and 50% of the regional median income, low, and then there's very low, which is 50%, down to 30%. This is the chart. I know you can't read that, so I thought ahead and just blew up Bergen County. Just so you know, that chart, it's a chart that we don't prepare, the state prepares. Anybody can get that at any time. It's online. It's published by the state. It's entitled 2018 Affordable Housing Regional Income Limits by Household Size. It's one of the most common questions that people ask me at these type of meetings. Every single county in New Jersey is represented. We're in Region 1, Bergen County, and I just took that and just blew it up so we can see it. You can see what the income limitations are in Bergen County for 1 person all the way up to a 5-person family. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to go. If I could pull this off. I'm trying to bring up that concept plan. It's somewhere else in my files. I have it on my screen. Bear with me 1 minute, please. I have to get 100% out of it first. There we go. Then I come back here. Then I go here. Then I go here. Come on. This, this is, now I'm back to 800 Sylvan, okay? I spoke about that subdivision line and the redevelopment of that property. Again, this is not, I'll just be very clear, I repeat myself, this drawing's not completed. I'm still working with their design professionals on it, so I don't want to mislead anybody. This is not the final drawing. I can say that this is pretty close to where we are. I don't want to mislead anybody. I don't think the changes are substantial, but there are still issues that we have to work out. So I'm just trying to be as honest as I can be here. This is 800 Sylvan, 28-acre piece of property. I don't know if you could see it in the back, but there's a red subdivision line. The one subdivision line that goes east to west, that goes from Sylvan Avenue to Floyd Street, that subdivides 8 acres of property, and you can see the reconfigured research and development facility that's currently on the project today. I wish I had a split screen about existing and proposed, but you'll see there's in the back, what I mean by back, I mean up along Floyd Street, there's a one-level parking garage that's now there, and there's a surface parking lot that's reconfigured and expanded in the rear of the property. In the front of the property to the east, between the existing building and Sylvan Avenue, there's a new surface parking lot. That's the parking and that's the driveways that had to get reconfigured and realigned in order to support the existing R&D facility. Approximately 430 parking spaces, I believe, needs to be reconstructed, realigned on that property to support that. Then there's a subdivision line. The northern or the western portion, up along more towards Floyd Street, that layout includes, I'm shown right there, 94 townhouses. There's actually 96 on this sketch because that's one of those issues that we're still working on. We're trying to see if we can lower, is there a way to lower the overall number of units on the site by making 2 of the townhouses either group homes or affordable units on that site. So they're not more market rate units, we're just trying to figure out how best to do the 80 units. So there's 94 townhouses plus 2 possible group home townhouses shown on that property. You can see the access to the townhouse development. There's 2 points of entry off of Sylvan Avenue, generally in line where they are today. We're trying, the key components of this plan are to maintain as much of a buffer as we possibly can along Floyd Street, number 1. Number 2, no vehicular access out onto Floyd Street. Keep everything internal. And we're trying to also save as much of the trees and the vegetation that we can along Sylvan Avenue. So that's the 94 townhouse project. In the middle, surrounded by the townhouses and next to the R&D facility, is an apartment building. 306 units. The front portion of the building is 3 stories over 1 level of parking, so it's a 4-story building. The rear, well, the predominant, most of the building is 4 stories over 1 level of parking. So it's 5-story, 4-story total apartment building. You can see there's, looks like, I would say 3 upside down U's. Those are the darker yellow, that's the apartment building. And in the middle, those shaded area, those are amenity decks, outdoor decks that would support the apartment building. The parking is underground, it's buried underneath. It's partially buried underground, it's partially exposed depending on where you are because of the elevation of the site. So the 94 plus 306, that's your 400. So at a very high level, I'll stop there. The building, you can see, my last comment would be that the apartment building is generally in line with the existing CNBC building. So if you go up and down Sylvan Avenue right now, it's generally along the same line.
Is there anyone on council that has any comments?
We've got one more presentation.
We have numbers regarding school children.
All right.
One more presentation.
And then you guys can ask all the
Bob, how long do you need?
Half an hour. You guys have an hour.
You were
Information that needs to be going through.
How long do
It's
you need?
important that this information comes through. There has been emails being sent
We
out.
need 10 minutes.
How they got my email, I have no idea, but apparently they did, and they've been sending out stuff with false numbers. We're bringing in the number man now. Robert Powell is the Managing Director of Nassau Capital Advisors, LLC. He was previously the first Executive Director of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, which is a public development corporation. He's qualified as an expert for the following agencies: public and private and affordable housing analysis and development, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety, which is all part of the New Jersey Development and Community Affairs, Hoboken, New Jersey Authority, Asbury Park Housing Authority, Red Bank Housing Authority, Bergen County Housing Authority, New Jersey State of League of Municipalities, Township of Rockaway, Town of Princeton, West Windsor Township, Township of Washington and Gloucester County, South Brunswick Township, the Borough of Omaha, Consortium of Municipalities in Mercer and Ocean County. He's been published in many scholarly publications on affordable housing, and we brought him here tonight to show you the real numbers, not what you're getting in your emails. Please pay attention.
Please indulge Bob for 10 minutes, he said, and then we'll have questions. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. I know it's been a long process in the evening. I appreciate it.
Good evening. I will absolutely try to make this as brief as I can and as helpful. What the council and Jeff Serrani have asked me to do is undertake an analysis of the impact of the 800 Sylvan Avenue project on the public schools in Englewood Cliffs, and to utilize for that purpose the most accurate, current, and credible data that is available on what is sort of a complicated subject. The plan, as has been already described, is as you see here. That was the basis of my analysis. 94 for sale townhomes. It's important to understand, by the way, a couple of details. The townhomes, as we see them in the plan, are large and are relatively expensive. They range in size from 3,200 to 3,700 square feet. They may be 3 or 4 bedroom. And the apartments are divided, as you see here, between 226 market rate apartments and 80 affordable apartments. The assumption that we're making, and I think this may be part of the negotiations, is that the market rate apartments will be limited to 1 and 2 bedroom distribution. So no 3-bedroom apartment. Before I get into the numbers, one of the most important predicates to all of this is how do we know how a new project, how many school-aged children are going to be generated by a project. And for the last 20 years, towns and demographers have tried to solve that problem with guesswork. The good news is that in the last 10 years, thanks to advances in the U.S. Census, we can now predict with a very high degree of statistical accuracy and geographic zeroing in the number of school-aged children that will be coming out of new developments. And the reason that that is true, if you can see the text, but I'll summarize it for you, is because of recent census advances. So the census does a biannual census, as you know, every 10 years. But in between the big census, the American Community Survey interviews a sample of households all over America with a long checklist of questions, about the kind of house they live in, who lives in the house, what's the value of the house, what's their income, where do their kids go to school. That data is all fed into a mainframe somewhere, and private data collectors, including the one that we're using here, eConsult, can mine that data and zero in on the answers to those questionnaires and develop very specific, what we call multipliers, of how many public school-aged children will be generated from a newly moved-in household. That's one of the variables that we screen out. The only people that are surveyed for the basis of these multipliers are households that recently moved in within the last 7 years. And I'd also point out that it also screens out public school-aged children who don't go to public school. We know how many of them, if we wanted to, are going to private school or homeschool. So we wanted to make sure that variable was controlled. We control for the housing size, the type of house, single family, multifamily, and bedroom. So with all of that, we get multipliers. And the multiplier simply means that if across 100 3-bedroom townhouses, the data indicates that the school-age multiplier is 0.3, that means in those 100 new townhouses, we are likely to get 30 new public school age children. We can then, with the data, allocate those 30 students across limited grade level areas. Not every grade K through 12, but as you'll see here, we can break it down between elementary, middle, and high school ages. So that's the methodology. It's the gold standard. It's the basis of all the mitigation analysis that's done, all the predictions that are done now by independent experts on public school age children, and it's fortunately now available to us. What I want to do now is cover 3 basic points about the findings and conclusions of my analysis, and then I'm going to briefly walk you through the details of all 3. Number 1, how many public school age children are likely to be generated by the 800 Sylvan Project? That's the first question. How many? And where will they be headed within your school system? Point number 2, what's the fiscal impact of the project on your taxes? And number 3, where are those new public school age children likely to go to school within your school system? In order to help us understand the capacity of your school buildings to absorb the additional students. So those are the 3 points I want to cover. Point number 1, as I will show later in the worksheet, I'm projecting an increase of 127 public school age children in all grade levels coming out of the Sylvan Project. You will also see later in the worksheet that grades kindergarten through 5 are going to get 78 of those students. Grades 6 through 8 will get 20 of them, and the high school cohort will be 29.
It still generates new kids.
It will generate, I predict, that number of children. So let me just keep going here for a minute. Let me just keep going. The second conclusion is the fiscal impact. The project right now is assessed for tax purposes at a little over $62 million, which includes the land and the office building that's on it. We have run a financial model, a very detailed model of the Sylvan Project using the size, the cost, the revenues, the rental income expenses, for purposes of providing a new assessment for that project once it's built and stabilized. And our projection is that upon completion, the assessed value of that project will more than triple in value to approximately $209 million. That new assessment, based on just your current 2019 equalization ratio and your tax rates, is projected in 2019 dollars to generate total tax revenues of just under $3 million a year, of which almost 40% is the school tax, which would be $819,000, which would go for school purposes, which turns out to be, if you're interested in just ratios, the $819,000 is roughly $6,400 for each of the new public school age children. Let's talk about the final point, and I'm going to give you some more detail later, time permitting. School capacity. What happens when the 127 kids arrive for public schools in the 2 buildings you have now, plus the high school level? Right now, the projection is, as you'll see later, that of the 127 new students, 98 of them are going to be headed towards grades K through 8 in North Cliff and Upper School. That turns out to be, on average, approximately 11 new students for each of the 9 grade levels that you now have buildings to provide classrooms for. And I will make one other point we're going to get to later. Within the 9 grade levels in these 2 buildings that you have a total of 26 classrooms. Grades 1 through 8 each have 3 classrooms, and your kindergarten has 2 at this point. So the 98 public school age children average about 11